to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
We're back, baby.
We're all doing the hand warm gesture.
I don't know why. Maybe because Jason's back.
I'm back. I brought the cold.
That's strange. Welcome back, Jason. It's
glad
Tuesday.
to be here. Yep.
Tuesday, January 19th. We are the Fantasy Footballers. I'm Andy Holloway, joined by Jason Moore, who's back from Disneyland.
Woo! The happiest place on earth.
Mike Wright. No, that is not true. I'll correct you. And Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright.
Hey,
The
everybody.
happiest place on earth was my living room floor, where I was rolling, weeping, crying, smiling, convulsing after Larry Fitzgerald went Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, he is a playoff behemoth.
Took over that game. I think the commentator said it right. We didn't know Larry Fitzgerald was going to jump over this game.
Seriously, he hit the power-up button on that run.
Yeah, he did.
And that stiff arm, I almost my spirit burst from my body. I couldn't even comprehend it. And let me tell you, right off the bat, my experience with that game, and thank you to everybody who on Twitter and elsewhere were vicariously living through our excitement.
Yes.
We are Cardinal fans, and we try to be very as unbiased as we can. Not really, though. And
well, we're unbiased when we're breaking things down. And I had someone message me something during the game, of being an analyst. And I said, not right now.
you're a fan.
Yeah, not right now. I am a full-on Cardinals homer.
Oh, well, and the reality I had to face during that game when it wasn't looking so good for Arizona was I told somebody, I'm like, man, part of being a professional means I have to go in and analyze this game even if we lose, and I'm not going to want to go in on Tuesday. And thankfully, things went differently. But my wife's in-laws, my in-laws, my wife's parents, were in town from Wisconsin. We had probably 15, 20 people watching the game at our house. 2 are Packer fans. And man, they were the worst. They were the worst. Because they were it was like my father-in-law tried to give me 5 after one of the interceptions. Man, I wanted to take him down. It was just rough, man. I wanted to apologize to everybody in the room because they were somehow, their volume level was like Wisconsin volume. It was different. It was
I would have done it.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds like they made the party great.
But honestly, whenever the Cardinals did well, it was always like a celebration, not at them. When the Packers did well, it was a celebration at my face.
Well,
That's
then
how
you were doing it wrong.
That's what I was thinking.
You're
I
right.
mean, the touchdown at the end, I would have had the double point in gyrating in your face.
Right, the Drew
Yeah, Drew
Stanton.
Stanton.
You would have Drew Stanton them?
Yes, I would
I was too
have.
busy running circles around my kitchen island. Sorry. But I'm sorry. That was my story from the game. It was, I believe Al Michaels and Collinsworth both used the word insane multiple times on those plays. It was insane. It was insane. And Aaron Rodgers, oh my goodness.
It was a flashback to the last time Arizona played Green Bay
It was. And I was at that game.
with the playoffs when went to overtime because I believe that was Neil Rackers at the time. Rackers missed a chip shot field goal, went to overtime, and then they won on the defensive score. But I was having deja vu flashbacks when everything started unfolding at the end.
So what do we got going on the show today?
Running backs.
The
truth.
Last week we went through quarterbacks and tight ends and talked about the truth. We looked at the numbers, where guys finished, what we thought they would do next year, guys that had kind of anomalous seasons where, okay, Tyler Eifert, he finished real high in the rankings, but he only caught 50 passes. He had 13 touchdowns. Keep an eye on that. Guys like Jordan Reed, 11 touchdowns after 0 last year, things like that. So it was a really, I think, a good week looking and reflecting on the rankings. And we want to do that with running backs. But we don't want to do that in one show because running backs, there are just so many that have contributed this year. So we're going to go through the top, 24, 25?
At least 24 with some
If
honorable
not more.
mentions. Yes.
Yeah. And so we're going to do some of that on today's show, some on Thursday's show. And Jason will be here to add his analysis.
Yeah, I got to listen to last week's show.
So how was your trip? I mean,
The trip was great. The family enjoyed it. Everything went well. Nobody got sick. Nobody threw up. The biggest problem we had was on the drive back. There was like a I-10 road closure There was a 2-hour
That sounds like a
monstrosity.
treat with kids in the car.
Oh, yeah, it was a blast. But no, it was a great trip, and I got to listen to the podcast. Great job, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic stuff. And
Sounded
so-
like Andy Reid might have been in charge of your trip back to the Valley.
Yeah.
Slow and steady. It
So-
wins the race.
Before we get into the quick question and the running backs, we got some news, things we want to let you know, fantasy world and otherwise. But if you want to connect with us, it's very simple. You go on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Like I said, thanks to everybody who was giving us congratulations on making it through another round. What's so hard is the Packers are like my second favorite team. It couldn't happen this week. I'm sorry, guys. And then you can find us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube. The show's on there. Segments are on there. And so, like I said, we got running backs. I think these shows are going to be great today and on Thursday. Give you kind of a, like a very soft foundation for 2016 in your brain.
Yeah, these are important shows for fantasy football players going into next year. When you listen now, we're fresh, we remember things, and we're taking kind of that post, mortem look at the running back position, and that matters for especially this year. With all the injuries, with all the craziness, we've got to make sure we take that look back before we move on.
And so often, I mean, that's a great point. So often in years past, I've forgotten kind of the end of the year that some guys have had because, if you're out of the playoffs or, you don't get week 17 involved, the stats kind of surprise you because you come back the next year, guys are higher in the ranks than you thought. I remember Jason Witten finished a year with 3 huge games. He ends up really high in the tight end list, but he didn't do anything for people that year. So it definitely contextualizes their seasons, and it helps a lot to lay that foundation. So quick question. I just want to know, guys, I mean, we've gotten into it a little bit, but what did you learn this week in fantasy and otherwise from these games? What'd you learn?
I learned that a 31-point lead at halftime is barely enough for the Carolina Panthers.
That's the third or fourth time we've seen that this year with them.
Yeah, but they keep winning those games.
I know.
I said barely. They definitely won. That was a horrible game turned very fun, interesting game to watch. My one gripe for the NFL that I wanted to talk about on this is Saturday for the playoffs. You have a game start, and we're talking Western time zones here. So a game starts in the afternoon and the evening. Why on Sunday do we have to play in the morning and the afternoon? You have the Seattle Seahawks are traveling about as far as you can go across the continental United States, and they have to play a football game at 10 in the morning according to their body clock. Why can't, for the playoffs, why can't you just shift that back and let it be the afternoon and the evening just like it is on Saturday, kind of level the playing field a little bit? I mean, you saw it with Seattle. They were not ready to go, which a lot of times teams are like that when they have to go all the way to the East Coast. There is an advantage for the home team. Yeah, they earned it. They were the home team, sure, but just adjust the time a little bit. I mean, it's ridiculous that you can't move the morning game to the afternoon.
I think that's a really good point, and it kind of leads into what I learned, which is that apparently being the home team does matter. After last week, we saw no home teams win at all. This week, all 4 home teams won. I ended up going 4-0 this week as opposed to 2-2 last week with the picks. I mean, it wasn't a pretty game in Denver, but being at home helped. Defense helped. I don't know what to think. I was kind of vehement with you guys that Peyton Manning, he's the right quarterback. I watched that game.
I don't think the right quarterback is in Denver.
You might be right, but I tell you, man, there is a play calling situation there where they're very content to be super conservative. Nothing was getting thrown across the middle for like 2 quarters in that game. So do I give them a shot next week? Yeah, they're at home. I give them a shot.
Well, as long as they can pull off a stunt where Peyton Manning not only gives himself up according to the rules.
That was amazing, by the way.
He slides. It was a slide. His feet were in front of him. So
I actually disagree with you,
I
Mike,
disagree, too.
Okay,
I think he fell.
because he got up so quick. I thought it was a nice.
he did not get up so quick.
He did too?
Yeah, well, that was as quick as Peyton Manning could get up, Mike.
But
It was an evasive, athletic move from an athletic quarterback who was afraid for his life.
I have seen far less get called, oh, he gave himself up, And
You're right.
To me, I was just saying that. So if you don't say it's a slide, that's fine. But he, in my opinion, completely gave up on the play. He said, okay, I'm going to go down. I don't want to get hit. And that play changed a ton for the game. That was a huge momentum swing that they got the first down there. And that was a nice little home cooking.
Yeah, what I learned is pretty much exactly the same as you, Andy, but it's good to be the best. You know, you had the top 4 seeds in the NFL. Those are the guys that are playing for the Super Bowl this next week. You know, you had the 2 number 1 seeds and the 2 number 2 seeds. They win and they go on, which makes for great football this next week. We've got each game, you don't know who's going to win. You don't have anything where you go, oh, this is just a lopsided affair, especially with the game being in Denver for the Patriots-Broncos game. There's going to be some good football ahead. That's what I learned.
I agree with you. And we did get one phone call that I'm going to play now because we haven't heard from him in a long time. So let me just let me play this.
Yo, it's Tony Meatballs. My season was done like week 9, so stop calling, stop wasting you guys' time. But let's go Cardinals!
Oh, we got Cardinals fan.
He said his season was done like week 9. That's why we never heard from Tony Meatball the rest of the year.
Well, I think Amir Abdullah might have a little bit to do with Tony Meatball's season.
So it's Mike's fault, is what we're saying. All right, let's move on.
Weekly Rewind.
All right, we don't have a ton of news that is very relevant to you guys. We have, obviously, the playoff challenge going on, so we're talking about some guys that are playing next week. Maybe you got 2 times the points on certain players. Greg Olsen got hurt. It didn't look great at first, but he's describing his shoulder injury as a burner and nothing that's going to keep him out. Do you guys have any other news on him?
No, he's a tough guy. He's going to be fine. It's like Big Ben to me. I mean, any other person tears ligaments in their throwing shoulder, they're not going to come out.
Which I'm calling shenanigans.
Second play of the game, 50-something yard pass down the sideline.
Shenanigans.
Big Ben. That's what I'm calling.
I understand that, but yeah, and I know that his shoulder was probably very numbed up, but I don't know, man. I'm not a master of anatomy. I just don't think if you have torn ligaments that you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and then they came out before the game and they said he wouldn't have played if it was a regular season game.
Yeah.
Hey, one Fitzgerald, 2 Sunt fumble, and the game turned. So,
that poor guy.
He looked happy on the bench.
On the bench, just
man.
helmet on. Oh, I felt bad for that guy.
Me too.
It's just incredible what being a veteran does to those aspects of playoff football, because you saw it with Cameron Artis-Payne. Like his first carry, they after the 59-yard run by Jonathan Stewart, first carry by Artis-Payne, horrible fumble. Luckily, they recovered it and finished the drive. Who knows if the game turns around there. Second carry, almost a horrible fumble. Like the nerves, and you saw it with Blair Walsh. It's just a different animal. All right, what are you guys hearing about Panthers defensive end Jared Allen?
He's got a foot problem, as far as I heard. I didn't catch the latest update. Does he actually have a broken foot?
That's what I've heard.
Going to play?
Yeah,
I've heard broken foot.
Yep, and that he's going to play through it. Again, this is the difference between playoff football and regular season football. No way he does this in the regular season, but you win, you go to the Super Bowl. He's going to try to play through it. I don't know that he's going to be able to do that well.
He only plays on about 60% of snaps as it is. So we'll see. He may have some limited rotational reps and things like that. He's not the same player he was years ago,
but,
that's for sure.
But to have depth at the pass rush, I think is super critical. Even if you're not the greatest player, if you're coming in with 100% full tank of gas, I mean, that makes a really big difference.
Sure does. So some news this morning regarding Marshawn Lynch's future, which relates to who? Thomas Rawls as well in Seattle. What is the latest you're hearing about Marshawn Lynch? Is he going to come back? What's out
John
there?
Clayton is reporting that he is absolutely done, completely done with the Seattle Seahawks, so he won't be back. It's still really early, and whenever you have a report that comes out, days after a terrible loss, you always get those like, I'm done, I'm retired. Wait a couple weeks. That being said, I do think it's accurate. I don't think that he's going to come back for cheap. I don't think the Seahawks are going to pay to bring him back. So I don't see Marshawn Lynch back in Seattle, which makes Thomas Rawls a great keeper.
Yeah, there's no way Seattle's going to give him the $9 million or whatever.
Well, he was really close to retiring last year without getting big money from Seattle. So any other news you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, the Doug Peterson, right? Because the Eagles coach, that happened after.
Yeah, Kansas City's offensive coordinator.
After we had recorded, the reports are the Eagles will hire Doug Peterson.
As opposed to like Tom Coughlin, who was in the rumor mill for a while. I guess Coughlin kind of withdrew himself.
And Doug Peterson kind of likes the tight end. My man, Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz is, when we talked about this on Thursday, he's one of our
just saying you get
early season favorites for next year.
We liked what he
value-wise.
did. We like the talent. Get a guy in who actually uses the position. I mean, that's a very big difference as opposed to a guy that like you have like Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians just doesn't utilize the tight end very much. And so that makes a huge difference for fantasy.
Now, weren't you upset at the utilization of Travis Kelce?
Yeah, but that's
So how do you say that he uses
well,
the tight end?
I was upset because I was expecting more, but I put that more on Alex Smith being a one read guy and not being willing to air it out.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
They have to
I
run,
think it's a weird hire. I don't. This to me seems like we miss you, Andy Reid. Please come back. we know you can't, and we couldn't swallow
That's
that.
funny.
So
That's funny.
let's get your protege, who's been with you for a long time.
All right, before we get into the truth about fantasy football running backs, I want to take a minute and thank the sponsor of today's show, Squarespace. Listen, you've heard me talk about it before, and you know the realities for your business. Building a website can be tough. And even if you know your way around coding, creating something that looks good and works well is time-consuming. And that's one of the hardest things about it, whether it's for a business site or a portfolio, a restaurant, whatever else you've got going on, you probably need a website. And that's where Squarespace comes in because they make it easy to build beautiful websites without breaking a sweat. I love Squarespace. I recommend it to everybody. They provide simple, powerful, and beautiful websites that look professionally designed, regardless of your skill level, regardless of whether you can code and do all those types of things. And listen, you cannot beat the ease and simplicity of Squarespace because they give you 24/7 online support and beautiful, beautiful websites. So what are you waiting for? Start a trial with no credit card required right now and start building on your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code Footballers. That's Footballers to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support of this show. So we thank Squarespace for their support. Squarespace, build it beautiful.
And speaking of beautiful, why not this year have some beautiful looking skin, not that cut up, nasty, hurt skin.
Ew.
With our sponsor, Harry's. You've heard us talk about Harry's.com. Andy uses it. I use it. We've used it for almost the whole year. They have a great product. They are a great company. If you're sick of spending too much money on a bad shave or too much money on a good shave or cheap, you're saving money on a terrible shave, then Harry's is the answer. If you shave, you've got to go to Harry's. They have great blades. They are very affordable. They are the place to get your razors. Shipping is always free. It is the place to go for all your razor needs. In fact, Harry's doesn't like to discount their prices because they are already really low, but they have worked out a special offer code for our listeners. Harry's will give you $5 off your first order with the promo code Footballers. So stop overpaying for a great shave. Go get a $15 starter kit. It is a ton that you get in there. You're going to get it for $10 with that promo code. Go to Harry's, that's HARRYS.com. Enter code Footballers at checkout and start shaving great today.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
All right, let's get into the running back discussion. You start to see various places come out with their way too early running back rankings.
I love them.
Is that good clickbait for you? As long as you see that, you're like, let's check it out.
Yeah.
I
You
know.
know I'm going to look at it.
But one of the guys that was interesting, I saw somebody's list. If I remembered who it was, I'd give you a shout out. But Devonta Freeman is our number one running back. It was the number one running back from last year. And he was down at 19-20 on this initial list for next year. So let's talk Devonta Freeman.
I think that's a bad decision. I think Devonta Freeman is the starting running back for the Atlanta Falcons.
Super good analysis.
I'm
No,
just
I'm just
saying,
kidding.
next year, I am not buying into the Tevin Coleman scare. I'm not buying into the running back by committee. Tevin Coleman was on the team this year, and he had his opportunity to do it. It's not like, oh, next year's going to be totally different because he's not going to get injured like one game early on. This was not a running back by committee type of team. On the year, Devontae Freeman had 71% of the snaps. And the last 4 weeks, 87% of the snaps. They went up as the year went on. He is an important, integral part of that offense, and he will be much higher than 19th on this fantasy analyst list next year.
Now, the big piece with him, and he ran, 264 carries, over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. But that second number there, 97 targets. 73 receptions, 578 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air.
97
That's
targets.
the difference, right?
Ride the snake.
That's the difference.
97 targets. That's wide receiver numbers. That's ridiculous for a guy. He ran the ball 264 times. I mean, and what we've been doing with these, getting into the truth, we're breaking down their consistency. How often were they giving you a top 5 performance, to like a week winning top 5, just a top 25, very solid, and then how often did they crap your team?
How long
they weren't even a running back 4 for the week. Well, Freeman 5 times won you a week. We know he had that 3-week stretch where he was scoring 3 touchdowns every single week, and he was the greatest thing of all time. On top of that, 12 times in the top 25, but the most important part, when you needed him, 0 times did he crap your team with a below a running back 4. So that's fantastic consistency.
It's because of those passing numbers.
Exactly.
Because no matter the game flow,
the team struggled at times.
absolutely, the team, the offense that looked great in the very beginning of the year sputtered throughout the rest of it. But he was still fine, even when he wasn't getting his touchdowns. He was never ever hurting your team. He's just a very consistent guy with blow up potential. It's basically like a Lamar Miller type without the bad games, which is what you would, hope that you get out of.
So Mike, how did his top, when he faced a good defense, bad defense, how did that disparity break down?
So the difference between the top 16 and the bottom 16, really only a couple of points, which is exactly what you want out of a running back. Why I really wanted to point these out is last year, when going through the numbers, I chose to chalk this up to just a maybe it was a fluky thing, but last year, so I guess 2 years ago, Eddie Lacy's splits against a bad defense was monstrous. There was a huge gap of fantasy points when he faced a strong rushing team. When he faced a strong rushing team, he just did not produce fantasy points, and I chose to put that as well, I think he can improve, and we were shown the truth, so to speak, this year, where Eddie Lacy still continued to struggle against strong defenses. So I think this is an important thing to look at,
especially with running backs. So what are the numbers for Freeman?
They were great. They're just a couple point difference.
Yeah.
So he was consistent against good teams and bad teams.
All right. Number 2 on this list is Adrian Peterson, finishes the number 2 running back this year, 327 carries. So that number is much higher than Devonta Freeman's. Almost 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns again. He really wasn't targeted in the passing game the way that we thought he could be with North Turner. Yeah. And honestly, he won't be. I think we know that. There's no reason for it. Jarrett McKinnon can catch the ball and do different things with that dynamic speed out of the backfield. However, he was the most consistent running back in football. He had 13 performances in the top 25. He had 4 week winning performances, and then he had 1 week where he did crap your team. But so very close to Freeman. Basically, both were just as consistent. Adrian Peterson, how long can he do this?
Well, he can definitely do it next year. There's no slowing down at the end. And, we've seen when he plays with a chip on his shoulder, with doubters around him, with, some bad publicity, he plays great. When he was coming back off of that injury, I think that was his career high in yards. This year, with all of the suspension from last year, comes out, gets another rushing title. And I think the fact that he fumbled their playoffs away and is getting a lot of bad press up there, I'm hearing him talk differently about how normally he
issue?
the fumbling issue. Normally he pushes it off, says, whatever. This time he says, when it comes back to bite you in that way, it's something you got to work on and change. And yeah, how long has it taken you, Adrian Peterson, to realize this?
Sounds like Shaq with free throws.
But yeah, I don't know that he's going to be able to change that at this point in his career, but he has something still to prove. I don't see how he's not in my top 2 running backs next year.
That was going to be my question for both of you. Would you rather have Adrian Peterson or Devonta Freeman?
Adrian Peterson.
Ooh, man.
Would you rather have Adrian Peterson, Devonta Freeman, or Le'Veon Bell?
That's the question to me is Le'Veon. I would probably, if I'm at the top of a draft, I'm probably going to take Adrian Peterson. And the reason is because he's done it for a career. He's not as injury prone as Le'Veon Bell, which I think deserves that label to some degree at this point.
Yep.
And Devonta Freeman is great, but he's done it 1 year. So I'm going to take Adrian Peterson in the history.
And Adrian Peterson's his split between a great defense and a bottom defense, about 0.1 points. So
It didn't matter who he was playing.
It does not matter for Adrian Peterson, and I love that. He's evaluating his fumble issue. How many years has he played?
Yeah, it's strange. It's just one of those things where you're like, okay, I'm this good, I don't care. And that's unfortunate because it cost him. And it cost him in more than just the playoff game. It cost him in other games. Huge fumble. It's the reckless abandon. I'm going to run this way. I'm going to do this thing. Well, can't you do it better?
Well, it wasn't just the first playoff game. If you go back to the NFC title game, everyone remembers the Brett Favre interception that sealed the game. What you're forgetting is Peterson fumbling on the goal line, having another fumble inside of that game. I mean, there was a disaster of Butterfingers. So it's just hilarious that now is the time for him to evaluate that. It's good stuff.
Right. Hey, it's better than him saying, well, if we would have made a field goal, we would have won.
Oh,
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
Let's talk about the third guy on the list this year. Hey, he's Doug Martin.
He's back.
He's Doug Martin, and Dirk Cutter is the head coach now in Tampa Bay. He wants Doug Martin back. There's a long way from here to there where he's back on that roster. But if he's there, you have a consistency in play calling from Dirk Cutter. So that's a good thing for repeating a performance. You also have stability at the quarterback position. You know who's playing quarterback? A guy who had a very, very good rookie year in Jameis Winston. You got good wide receivers that can keep defenses honest, not let them stack against Doug Martin. The question will be how much do they use him? He had 288 carries this year, despite I don't remember the exact number, but his snap percentage was so low compared to the carry numbers that make you think he's on the field all the time.
Yeah, and what will be interesting is his counterpart. He won't be featured in this show, but he's in this list.
Charles Sims.
So
That's amazing.
I mean, you have to imagine the time split will still be in Doug Martin's favor, but Charles Sims had a great year as well. Breaking down Doug Martin versus top defenses versus bottom defenses, it didn't matter for Doug Martin. It's just a couple point difference. And as far as consistency, he was the third best, and which is great because he was the third best running back in fantasy, with 12 top 25 performances, 3 top 5, and no craps. No, his pants are clean.
So basically what we see here from the first three is these are not anomalous finishers in running back. They're not guys that ended up at the top because they had 3 or 4 humongous games. They were all top 3 consistency guys. So they all need to be in the discussion as one of the top picks at running back next year. In terms of the top, how did he perform against top versus bottom defenses? He actually was better fantasy-wise against top defenses. I don't know if that is because
yes.
I think I was going to say it's one of those game flow things. When you're facing better teams, a lot of times when you've got a tool like Doug Martin, you're going to try to run the ball more and slow down the clock, do those type of things. I think Dirk Cutter coming means that Doug Martin will be back, and he wants to use – Dirk Cutter wants Doug Martin. When you promote him –
going to have to pay him.
Yeah. When you promote him to head coach for his first year and then say, okay, well, we're not going to keep the guy that you really want, I think he will be back. And you have to remember, Doug Martin he was a first-round NFL draft pick. He is a very talented running back. The issue with Doug Martin has been health. And that's what you see as the big difference this year, is that he was able to play in all 16 games and play healthy throughout them. That's my fear with him a little bit, is will the smaller body who has an injury history with a big workload on a contract year, now he gets paid, is he going to be as, consistent on the field with Sims behind him? He's a little bit scarier to me than the other guys, but he is super talented when he's healthy.
So he's done this to us before with his rookie year.
Yeah, I love the level of consistency he has coming into next year, if he is indeed on the Bucs, which he should be. So number 4. Number 4 is when you start to get into some different numbers, and I don't think we need to debate him very long. But D'Angelo Williams was a number 4 running back this year. He had over 900 yards rushing. He caught 40 passes. His consistency number was way down. It was 8th, despite finishing 4th in the league, and that was because he had a number of games where he
wasn't playing.
Yeah, he really wasn't playing.
3 games with Le'Veon Bell, 2 carries for 32 yards.
So this is not so much. I don't think there's much to discuss with him long-term context, because D'Angelo Williams is the number 1 handcuff, maybe, is what you say, because he's the handcuff of a great player on a great team.
The question is, next year, Le'Veon Bell getting hurt every single year, will they lower that workload where Bell is basically out there for every single snap, getting every single running back touch?
I do not believe so.
Nor I.
You don't think that D'Angelo Williams will be worked in?
No, what we saw this year was,
and Tomlin has said it over and over again that he will not do that.
Yeah, I mean, they had the opportunity to do that this year. It wasn't like this was the first time either. We saw what they're going to do, and I believe they're going to do that next year. They did it with the backup, whoever comes in, with D'Angelo Williams. So that to me is not a worry. If Le'Veon Bell's back,
Williams is a year older. He's a year older next year, and that matters
They have seen now an entire year of D'Angelo Williams getting it done, not just 2 games at the beginning. Or if you know that your backup can get it done, why would you not give him more snaps?
Because that's not how they play.
Tomlin wants the best guy on the field, and if Le'Veon Bell's healthy, D'Angelo Williams might be good, but he's not Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, and he'll be 33 next year. It's a fair point.
The question to me,
I just don't buy into it at all.
The question to me is, do they go out and get another running back this year, because of the age of D'Angelo Williams, or because of the success of D'Angelo Williams? Do they kind of hold pat there and say, we got a great backup? In which case, I agree, he's the number 1 handcuff next year, and I think you're going to be able to get him cheaper than you should just because of his age.
I think he's going to be expensive. If they come into the year that he's the number 2 guy, he's going to be probably an 8th round pick. People will start snatching him up early just because that's like, you remember Niall Davis when he was the guy for a Jamal Charles owner. I mean, people started pushing him up way early.
Yeah, but the difference was Niall Davis wasn't 33.
It's just one of those funny things because first year D-Will leaves. There's no one on earth that thinks D-Will is going to outperform Jonathan Stewart in the lead back role, and here he is, at the top of our list yet again. It's just a comical thing, but he's a handcuff. We all agree.
Yes.
Todd, he is under contract for next year.
I checked on that too. Yeah, he's under contract for 1 more year. Todd Gurley, number 5, the rookie, 13 games, 229, 1106, and 10 touchdowns. Caught a few passes, but not a ton. He was 7th in consistency.
That's still good.
Very good, considering he didn't have the opportunity in the early part of the season to do it. He was somebody who definitely preyed upon bad defenses. His numbers were much higher against defenses that they could run on, and that makes perfect sense because the offense couldn't pass the ball. So it was one of those things where they could get stacked against the run in games where they knew that they weren't going to be able to pass.
Yeah, I agree. Moving forward in the next year, I mean, you have to like Gurley. He's immensely talented when you watch him.
Number 1 guy consideration.
But when you start breaking things down, you like running backs. You like talented, good running backs who are on good teams. And the Rams are an okay team until they can address their quarterback position. I mean, Case Keenum. As of now, Case Keenum is the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams moving into next year, and that's not going to put a lot of confidence in me to spend, say, a first-round pick on Todd Gurley.
Really?
Yeah. Depending on where you are, but there's these other guys. Let's say you got Freeman. We're just speaking of running backs, but Freeman, Peterson, Martin, Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley. Where is he? Who is he? Where are you ordering those guys?
Any sort of keeper league, Gurley is.
I'm not talking about keeper.
Yeah, I think Gurley is in my consideration for number 2.
I'd personally, from that argument, in a redraft league, I'd put him 4th on that list.
But he's a first round pick for me. I thought that was pretty bold to say Gurley's not a first round pick.
I can get behind that from the standpoint of, when we looked coming into this past year, we did the research of, okay, top running backs. How many of them are on? It was like 8 out of the top 10 were on winning teams. And so I do think that Todd Gurley is going to have a great year, but you're going to have those games where, he could get game flowed out. I mean, you see a pretty big discrepancy between his top 16 and bottom 16 scoring. I mean, 12.6 points per game versus 18.6.
I mean, you're talking.
It's hard because the 3 of the top 6 guys on this list are on crappy teams. I mean, Devontae Freeman's on a bad team. Doug Martin's on a bad team. Lamar Miller's on a bad team. None of them have the potential to be what Gurley would be. When you buy into a guy, I'm buying into the talent and that opportunity, and I can't imagine St. Louis's passing game being worse. Maybe that's my naivety.
No, it can't be worse. Sure, the difference of averaging 20 yards and half a touchdown more against bottom defenses has concern for me. That's all I'm saying. People are going to draft him in the first round. Just for me, if I'm staring down certain running back options. And in the first round, I don't know if I'm going to go with Gurley.
Yeah, that's fair. Gurley or Devontae Freeman for you guys?
I would take
because it's easily
Freeman.
Gurley for me.
I would take Freeman.
Freeman for you. What about you?
It would be Freeman in a redraft.
Okay. All right. Number 6 was Lamar Miller. Oh, Lamar Miller,
my boy. That's my boy, Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller, the man who
is he on
finished
his
6th, 17th. He was the 6th. This is why some players they help you if you play them at the right time, they hurt you if they don't.
He was consistently inconsistent.
I mean, to finish 17th in consistency as the number 6 running back is just amazing. There's no player with more huge question marks above his head than Lamar Miller. I mean, he's a guy who's probably not coming back to Miami, first of all. So landing in a new spot, we know that's hard to do anyways for a running back. Could he land in a good place like Dallas? Sure, he could. Is he good enough to take a workload in a new place and give you number 6 numbers again with maybe better than 17th consistency? Probably not. I don't know.
I think he is.
I think if he were to go to one of 2 spots, he would be great. And anywhere else, even though I love him, it's just not, whenever a guy changes teams, I am much more skeptical than hopeful. I don't normally go, oh, this is such a great opportunity. I go, there's a lot of questions. We don't know.
Where are those 2 places for you?
Well, one is clearly Dallas.
Okay.
But the other, whew.
Because I have a team in my head.
That excites me that I think is a somewhat real possibility would be the New England Patriots. Because he is a great pass blocker. He is good in the pass receiving game. And he's a great running back, and they've dealt with a lot of injury this year. They're in division. Bill Belichick has had plenty of time to scout him out. We've seen him steal people from the
Yeah, but Belichick's really smart, so he'll see what I see in him.
Yeah, well, and you might be right, but that proves the point, though, if you believe Belichick is smart, that if he goes out and grabs Lamar Miller and says, hey, you're using him wrong, give him to me, then I'll be excited. Anything else other than that, I'm probably going to be down on
I don't think the money's there for him to go to the Patriots, but I got
if he
one
did,
team.
I agree with you.
I got one team for you. The New York Jets.
Sure. With Ivory as a free agent?
Yeah. What
Powell as a free agent?
If Miller goes and becomes the main running back for the Jets, you got to like that.
Sure. That's a great potential landing spot.
I will say this on Lamar Miller. He is very, very inconsistent, and a lot of that was the usage of the Dolphins. We know that. Some of that was on him in certain games. But as far as you have to go, well, who should the onus really be on? And Pro Football Focus, they're a great company. They just take the game film and they rate people on every play and every game, good, bad, or otherwise, just individually. And he was the number 5 best overall running back according to their grades when you consider pass blocking, catching the ball, and running the ball. He is a really good running back in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm very soured by the way the team treated him. I don't feel like I have any clear lens to look through. So, I mean, they never gave me one.
The nice thing about him is that I don't think his draft position's ever going to be that high because there's a lot of sour with Lamar Miller.
Right.
And so,
look, at the end of the day, he finished number 6. So.
Exactly. And you don't want a guy as inconsistent as him as your number 1 back. But if you can get him as your number 2 back, a guy that can win you weeks, that's great.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to we got 4 more names we'll get in on this episode, and then we'll get into next on the next episode. We'll take 11 through the rest. The next guy on the list, David Johnson. Woohoo! Wow.
I would have got in on that, but I was taking a drink.
What surprises me about his numbers is that he was the 9th most consistent running back from a per-week scoring standpoint, which is bewildering. Because he wasn't the running back.
You're forgetting how many touchdowns he was scoring early.
I am choosing to forget that, I guess. Chris Johnson was the running back. It was David Johnson was the 3rd string running back. This was the Bruce Arians offense that said, yeah, the young guy sits. But I still remember from the first week of the season, he was the fastest clocked player when they do those, next-gen stats. He returned that kickoff. It was 22.5 miles an hour or something like that. Look, David Johnson is a pile of talent on a good offense.
Yeah, and watching the Cardinals these last few weeks, you can see that he's become indispensable. When you take him off the
Becoming
field,
dispensable? You mean indispensable?
No, that's what I said.
He said he's become indispensable.
Oh, I heard becoming dispensable.
Yeah. No. He's become indispensable, and
you can't withstand victories if a guy becoming becoming
not a
dispensable.
Pez dispenser.
When he's not on the field and they put in anyone else, whether it's Andre Ellington or Stephon Taylor, whoever it is, it's like the team stops moving. And if you give the ball to someone else, it's like regret time. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Chris Johnson. This could be muddy water next year if Chris Johnson is back, and I expect that he will be.
I don't expect him back.
I'm going to side with Jay on this. I think he will be back. I think they loved what he did in the locker room and on the field, and he didn't get taken out by bad play. He got taken out by injury.
So if he's back, who's the starter?
It'll be Chris Johnson.
No, I agree. I think it'll be Chris Johnson and David Johnson as the number 2.
Even if he's back, it'll still be David Johnson. If he comes back, first off, he's not under contract. So
Chris.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Chris
No,
Johnson.
you're right.
So he's going to have to take no money. I mean, Steve Keim is a crafty general manager and he works the budget very well, and he's not going to give Chris Johnson money after they've seen what David Johnson can do.
I will agree with the fact that, I will agree with that. And most of the groupthink out there is betting on him not being back. That's why you see David Johnson as high as you do in most of the early listings. I've seen him as high as 4 on pre way too early rankings. Because if he's the starter, let's say Chris Johnson's not back. I mean, this is a team that's 13-3.
Yeah, high
powerful
scoring
offense. Should be able to do
the
it.
Ball. I mean, I wanted to ask the question: if Chris Johnson is not back, who do you draft? Todd Gurley or David Johnson next year in a redraft?
Ooh, man.
Or even, I guess, in a keeper setting. Even you got 2 rookies this year coming in.
Look, if both were endorsed by their head coaches as starters, which obviously Gurley is. So if David Johnson's endorsed any form of PPR, half point or full, it's David Johnson, I think, because they involve him enough in the passing game to make him extremely valuable. You mix the team plus that. I have to get on board with that.
Yeah, at standard, I'd probably still lean with Gurley, just because of his. I think he's got the physical makeup to grind it out year after year.
But mind you, he had also 104 more carries than David Johnson did this year. I know David obviously can't speak to the beginning half of the season, but what else do we want to know about David Johnson? Because he had a big disparity with top and bottom defenses.
Huge disparity.
Yep.
He probably one of the widest gaps.
But his is difficult because of the sample size where I mean, you go to week 1, like we said, he's not the starting running back. However, he had 1 catch for 55 yards and a touchdown, so he put up a pretty solid fantasy week, which is why he's so high in the consistency rankings, is he's just sneaking in these touchdowns here and there. So his splits of top versus bottom is very hard to do because he only had...
It's not worth looking just at the stats on
Right.
him.
He only had 4 weeks as the feature back because the 5th week everyone got pulled the last week of the season against Seattle.
Yeah, here's a great point for those raw numbers. Weeks 10 and 11, you played 2 of clearly the top half Ds in Seattle and in Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. In those 2 combined games, he got 2 total carries. So you can't really blame him
3
for his numbers being down.
No. Oh, no, you're right, 2.
Yeah.
Should have done way more with those.
Come on, David Johnson.
Come on, David. All right, these next 2 guys are both in the free agent situation. You got Chris Ivory at 8. You got Matt Forte at number 9. I see a lot of similarities between these guys, not necessarily on the field in terms of how they play, but in terms of age and where they could land. You know, Jason spoke to the fact that there's a lot of question that comes into mind when you switch teams. I don't know if I would expect either of these guys to be in the top 20 next year, unfortunately.
I agree. Again, we spoke to this with Lamar Miller, but aside from those elite landing spots, almost anywhere else, I'm not going to trust that change to draft them where they finished this year. This year, they were in the role that got them to this spot, and we don't know going into next year what that role will be. I don't love free agent running backs, and when we look at the history of, tell me free agent running backs that have changed teams and been great, it's
the one that pops into my
pickings.
mind is Michael Turner. He had that humongous year, but he was a backup in San Diego, hadn't had a chance, then shows up in Atlanta and explodes. But not a guy that was great on one team, switched to another team, and then ended up great. It doesn't happen very often. Sure.
DeMarco Murray. A lot of people were like, "Ooh, going to Chip Kelly's high-power offense."
It's the most fun to be excited about a great player switching teams. That's fun. That's why they get hyped too much.
Yep, I completely agree.
I've got a landing spot for Matt Forte that I'd be curious your thoughts on. Really good one.
All right, let's hear it.
Really good one. Baltimore with Mark Trestman. Back in that system. He's a pass-catching back. They loved – there's not a better pass-catching back maybe than Matt Forte.
No, he set the record 2 years ago, but I don't see that happening. I think they've got Forsett under contract right now. They like him. He's definitely cheaper than Forte. And if you want an older guy who already knows the system, why would you go out and get Matt Forte? You've got an older guy and a young guy. I don't see that happening.
Because Forte is better than Justin Forsett.
Yeah, but you've got to spend your money. I mean, that's a wise team. The Ravens make good decisions.
Yes, they do.
And if you're going to have to spend a lot more to then cut Forsett and get
No,
Forte,
I don't. I
guess they're the same age, so
I think they can probably afford both. There's no way that Forte, in my opinion, is getting a big contract. So Forte is going to he should chase a ring, is what I think Forte should do. He's not. I don't feel like he's going to go into a situation where it's all about playing time for Matt Forte. Now, if he went to Baltimore,
then that's the Patriots.
Sure, but
Patriots just don't spend. They don't spend money.
That's what I'm saying.
They've got Deion Lewis under contract.
If he wants to take,
they just gave Lewis an extension. I don't think anybody's going to New England.
Yeah, he could go to Baltimore, but it's going to be cut because it's not like Forsett won't play. But I wouldn't surprise me if Forte, if he got there, if him turning into at least a somewhat of a featured back.
All right, I don't want to gloss over Chris Ivory, who did have a really interesting year. I will say that. The beginning part of the year, he looked like an absolute steal. He carried a lot of teams. He ended up 13th in consistency rating. He had over 1,000 yards this year. He was furiously annoying to play during parts of the year. I mean, your eyeballs told you for a few weeks as an owner of Chris Ivory, yeah, geez.
Dolphin game?
I should play Bilal Powell.
Oh,
I can't play Bilal Powell because it's Chris Ivory. He's a number whatever running. I should really play Bilal Powell. I'm watching this game. That was what was hard about him, is that Bilal Powell, when he was injured, Ivory was great because he got passing targets because he was on the field more. It was a strange game at the end of the year where they didn't use him. You have to wonder, I mean, what was going on?
That was bizarre.
Where they just basically, I mean, he came in, he had huge plays, and he didn't take any snaps. So he was a guy who was okay. He was a pretty consistent running back. He was definitely more of a 2 than a 1 in my mind, even though he ended up 8.
So let's say he's signed and he's back. There's no changes there. You're going in next year with Chris Ivory, Bilal Powell. What do you make of Chris Ivory? Finished the year as the number 8 running back. Definitely stronger first half to second half. You know, where are you ranking both of those guys, Chris Ivory and Bilal Powell?
That's a great question. I would put Ivory in the top 15 running backs if everything stayed status quo. The team's good. They're well coached. They like to run the ball. It's an annoying place to be, but I definitely put him in the top 12, top 15.
I would as well.
Getting him as an RB2.
But in a pure PPR, would you draft Ivory over
yes.
Bilal Powell?
I would still take Ivory, but I would go out and get Powell.
Powell seems like he's a Mike Wright kind of guy.
I like Bilal Powell. I always have.
Just because he's like Danny Woodhead, where nobody wants to draft him where he probably belongs because he's annoying. And you like drafting those kind of guys.
They're my favorite.
You're get them late.
Yeah,
and they'll give you production that's much better than – because where Ivory will go in that – so the hypothetical situation that Jason brought up, where Ivory will go and where Powell will go on normal leagues, Ivory's going to go way higher.
Yes.
Way higher. It doesn't even matter. In a average draft position of a PPR league, he's going to go way higher.
Yeah, you have. Well, this is what you have to look at too. I mean, Chris Ivory has been a walking injury type of a player. Now he played all 16 games, right?
No.
Yeah,
no.
If you're
Right?
a fantasy owner, you remember the time he got activated and not given a snap, but
Asterisk 16 games.
still, I mean, you take one game out of it. That's pretty good.
No, he had a very solid year. We'll wait to hear if he was injured in the second half of the year because he was not the same guy.
All right, number 10 on the list is Latavius Murray. And by the way, I'm really excited about the Thursday show and getting to some of these tweener names because they're just so many question marks around them. It'll probably be a very interesting show. But number 10 is Latavius Murray, 266 carries, over 1,000 yards, only 6 touchdowns. He was targeted quite a bit in the passing game, 53 targets, 41 catches. That's very nice.
That's
You'll
great.
take that.
Yes.
And then he was 10th in consistency. He had 10 performances in the top 25. He didn't have any top 5 performances. And that's what you feel as a fantasy owner when you see Latavius Murray. You felt nothing that gave you an auto win. He was a very reliable type of guy, and he only had 1 dud week. So what are your guys' thoughts on Latavius Murray now heading into next year?
I love Latavius Murray.
Say that again?
I love Latavius Murray. He is one of my favorite guys on this list.
Would you get on one knee and Murray him?
I would love to Murray Latavius Murray. He's young. He is a big boy. He's got great size, which helps him hold up. Played all 16 games. There was a lot made about the fact that he was able to take that workload and run with it. Through the full year, he had 64% of the snaps. The last 4 weeks of the year, he had 76% of the snaps. Del Rio is a running coach. This is an Oakland Raiders team that looked to be getting better. You know, if it wasn't for Amari Cooper's injury, I think they get a couple more W's and they were closer to the playoffs. This is a team I think that's going to be better next year. They left a lot. Latavius Murray left a lot on the field this year. Remember those games where, he fumbled the ball and was not used. But coming into next year, if they don't go out and sign Matt Forte in some weird, wacky situation that flubs everything up there, Latavius Murray's a guy to me who is going to get the ball, is used in the pass-catching game, is on an up-and-coming team, is a young guy. I like just about everything with him.
Yeah,
he
what
left
about
a lot
Roy
on the field.
Halou?
Goodbye.
Oh,
sorry. Roy Halou will not be on the Raiders next year.
But I bet Mike will pimp whatever guy gets signed behind Latavius Murray.
No. Wherever Halou goes.
Oh, you better believe.
There you go.
I love Roy Halou.
So, to me, Latavius Murray has a lot to look forward to. And the fact that he had low touchdown counts is kind of a good thing for me because I don't think it was an unwillingness. It wasn't an unwillingness to use him at the goal line and put in another back. That's not what we saw. We just saw the unpredictability of touchdowns, and
a team that's growing into its offense and their offensive players. I mean, you looked up an interesting stat, finding out Amari Cooper had dropped the 12th most balls in the league.
Yeah.
This is a
12th
team.
percentage, right? 12th highest drop
he
percentage.
was the 11th highest with enough receptions. Yeah, he was good.
They're a team that at times their offense looked gangbusters, and at times they were figuring it out. So I think it's a good point. And the touchdown number, that jumps out to me, because if a guy's on the field as much as he was, the percentages say he'll get more opportunities around the goal line. They'll just happen. So that's a good take. And if you had Ivory back in the same position and you had Latavius Murray, who would you take?
I would take Latavius Murray.
All right.
Yeah, I think I would take Latavius at this point. And versus top half defenses versus bottom, he averaged 66 yards against both. So those are the type of consistency numbers you want to see.
All right, that does it for today's show. We're hitting that was the top 10. Our next show on Thursday, we'll cover 11 and to as many as we can get to, and we will also make our predictions for the conference championship round. So you guys get your thinking caps on, start to ponder as you will, and we'll see.
I'm thinking right now.
We'll talk about the playoff challenge too. See how you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Mixed results.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.